Let's go to Sharon from Pittsburgh. She is listening online. Hi, how are you?
Well,
hi, Sharon.
I'm okay, thank you. I appreciate your taking my call today, and I appreciate your ministry and the work that it does for so many people.
Thank you very much.
The reason for my call is I've had a lot of trauma in my life in the last few years. The main one being my son went to prison when he was 19 years of age. And he was there for 3 years. And a year later, he died. And he's my only child.
Oh, my goodness.
And I've lost 2 siblings in the last couple of years. And I went through a terrible divorce. And, I wondered about, and I found my son dead. I went to visit him, and I found him dead.
Wow.
And I wondered about EMDR, but I only know of 4 in the area, and I know all of them personally, and so I don't feel comfortable going with them. And Cody's been dead for 4.5 years, and I blame myself every day that I failed as a mother.
I'm so sorry. And you are aware of things that can help. I'm wondering, this may even sound superficial to you, but you're not comfortable with the people you know that could help. But I'm just wondering if you might be willing to try the person who you're least comfortable, you're most comfortable with. Out of those that you're not comfortable with, pick the one you're most comfortable with.
Or they may have referrals, and it might be a little farther out, excuse me, from where you're located, but that would be worth it.
Yeah.
And I think if these people are your friends, to confide in them, they're certainly going to understand the need, and they also understand the ethical boundaries around it, and would want to get you with someone where there wasn't a conflict.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about their feelings. That's what they're supposed to deal with. Some people aren't comfortable with a certain therapist because they look like their father or mother, and they understand it's not personal. So I would do that, and then you need not just trauma care, but the loss, this loss. You need to go to Grief Share, or I'll send you our little grief workbook with the Life Recovery Bible. But are you in a group of any kind right now, getting any kind of support from folks?
No, and the truth of the matter is, when I go there, it doesn't help me because these people have someone to go home to. They might have lost a child, but they still have other children, or they still have a spouse, or they still have someone. I go home to an empty house every night.
Yeah, your situation is very sad, and maybe sadder than others, but there is a way. There is a path where you can experience some peace and some hope and some of God's promises.
Sharon, that is true. It's like I think about when people talk about being empty nesters and they look forward to that. Well, if you're not married, being an empty nester means you're alone, right? So it's a whole different ballgame. And others may not understand that, but there is no ideal group. And what you want to do is go to a group and draw on where the commonalities are. Everybody in a group like that has lost someone. Everybody feels that pain. No matter who else they have in their world, there's still that pain, that void of that person never coming back. So yes, you have added loss, but I would focus on those things that can draw you together so that you can get some comfort, because otherwise you're not going to the group and you're going home to an empty house.
Yeah. And reality is some of those folks going home to somebody are going home more lonely than you are living by yourself. Jim, your thoughts here?
Well, I'm convinced, Sharon, and Sharon, you have so much loss. Sometimes you go, am I crazy with all this? Well, you got an extra dose of loss. It's terrible. It's hard. but you don't want to be alone. It's possible to live in a home and alone, but you want to have a family. And I find that the family oftentimes is the church. That sometimes you can find a loving, caring people. These are people who maybe haven't experienced the same loss. Yes, go to find folks who have and work through those issues, but also to be a part of a family. I mean, every church in your neighborhood needs somebody to hold babies on Sunday morning. They need someone to, help at the women's fellowship, things like that. Help make them become a part of it. My wife leads a Bible study on Tuesdays with 12 women, some of them like yourself. And guess what? They've kind of become a family. We invite some of them to Christmas Eve, things like that. And I would find that, and I think you can find that in a church, in a neighboring church.
Let me just say this. I attended a church for 15 years, and I was a part of a group of ladies. And back in November, I had sensed for a while that there were things going on, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And back in November, I finally talked to this one lady where we would meet a lot of times. And she told me that I wasn't welcome in her home anymore.
Oh, boy. Well, we're out of time, and I just hate to end on that note. 1-800-NEW-LIFE.